wasn't that a treat? Marvelous. And you folks out here in the West Coast get that all by yourself. I think we're really going to be accused of rank discrimination by excluding and keeping out of that kind of entertainment the eastern segment of our country, the Midwest, and the Rocky Mountain states.
Well, they missed something with that. This is one of the great performers.
Oh, she's marvelous. Eartha Kitt. I tell you, she's just tops. Well, thank you. Lauren, they tell me that somewhere along the line they have what they call a commercial. I never thought I'd see the day that I was announcing commercials, but you know, politics does strange things to you. Now, a commercial.
Do you know what would have happened if all the Democrats who didn't vote had voted in the last 2 presidential elections? Think about it. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. Phone in your pledge now.
Well, my party tells me that the market is bound to go up.
And my party tells me it should remain fairly stable.
Well, my party is the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party tells me that,
When the Democratic Party talks, everybody listens, because you can believe them.
Answer, America. Phone in your pledge now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we give you the last 4 states now remaining in what has been decided for us as our time zone out here, we'd just like to remind you, those of you out here in these 4 states, Washington, Oregon, California, and Nevada, to buy yourself this insurance in America. Involve yourself, you people who haven't put in a pledge yet. I want to remind you, in 1968, no matter who you voted for, if you remember, there was an administration talking about a little girl with a sign held up. When they were campaigning, this little sign this little girl held up said, "Bring us together." And this is what they were going to do. Well, this administration sure brought us together. They really did. This administration polarized the greatest nation on this earth, ladies and gentlemen. If I can just ad-lib for a second. This administration gave us executives with no time to vote, executives with a disdain for the public, with no respect for the American voter. This administration gave us words like bugging that we never heard, laundered funds, all kinds of words we never heard. They invented phrases, lovely phrases, like swinging slowly, slowly in the breeze. And yet somehow, they did bring us together, ladies and gentlemen. They made a lot of Americans very, very mad. And a lot of mad Americans do get together. A lot of angry Americans do get together. And remember that the vote and the government belongs in the hands of the people, that it is a government of the Constitution that says this is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Now, make it your government, ladies and gentlemen. Finance the Democratic Party so that in 1976 and between now and 1976, your local elections are going to bring a Democratic majority to put the hands back, to put the government back in your hands. So pick up the phone now and make your pledge. Or if you've gotten an envelope dropped at your door, pick it up and put some money in it and send it in. You've got an address. Post Office Box 1974, Washington, D.C., zip 20013. Let's hear from you now. Answer, America. Sitting next to me right now, a guest, ladies and gentlemen, before we bring you the numbers, might be interesting along with our numbers this evening. This gentleman's the finance chairman of the Democratic National Committee, an insurance executive, being president of the Insurance Consultants Incorporated, an international insurance brokerage company, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lee Kling. Thank you, Lee, for joining us here and talking to us. Thank you. You can hear that applause out there.
Sounds awful good.
Thank you. They're listening to us. Being an insurance broker, getting into big business, one of the things we'd like you to do up here, I think, Lee, is to help, as did the Xerox people, try and talk about big business and the kind of money you people move around in investing and what the average voter feels is big business and big money. We want to clean that name up a little bit because America has thrived on big business. With some of our big machines here have made this country what it is. Right.
Right.
So,
for sure.
I think they'll be interested in hearing from you of the kind of thing you people are doing in terms of honest financing and the promotion of your party.
But Jack, the thing that we're excited about, the thing that we think is really terrific, exactly what's happening here. Big business in the Democratic Party is really just saying, let's go with the telethon, let's get the money from all of us, meaning ourselves, meaning every man and woman in this country.
The men in that business, you mean?
That's right.
That's right. Not the business as a whole.
Not the business
taking
as
the
a
public stockholders' funds and donating.
No way. And I think this is speaking for itself. We've done an exciting job here so far. We want to keep going with it.
Right.
And this is really the way we are going to raise our money.
Okay.
And it is great.
Well, we might be interested in your reaction to some of these numbers then. I'm just going to walk over here for a second. Can we have the very latest on these 4 states? We've just kind of lined them up here geographically, the way they sit almost. Why don't we start with our home state here, California, where we see over $500,000, ladies and gentlemen, $549,699 from our great state of California. Oregon trying real hard, a pretty Republican state. Oregon trying pretty hard, $74,543. Let somebody add these up right now and see where we're going. Washington, $103,170, a 6-figure number. And Nevada trying real hard, not with a big population, a lot of gamblers, but we're not asking them to gamble tonight if they know what we mean. We want to see a lot more money in the next 2 hours, about 2 hours and 35 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. $20,342. Let's just get a rough idea there. Lee, we've got 103,000, 177, 200 and what?
We're just
30, 250.
At the 800 totally.
Yes, about $800,000 totally right here. Now, at the rate we were going, ladies and gentlemen, just figuring it out, some fast math that I did here, since 4 o'clock this morning, a little over 12 hours ago, with only 4 states, and we've been working on 17 at a time, it's very conceivable that we are going to do $747,754 actually is the total. Thanks, Pat. We have a good chance here of doing a good, well over, as a matter of fact, close to $1.5 million if we want to, at least.
I think the exciting thing is we have to say to these states, come on, let's go, let's bring us in, and if we can get to that $7 million total, with these 4 states help, it'll be just doggone
Exactly.
the way we're going.
Exactly, Lee.
Great.
And one more thing in line with that, ladies and gentlemen. We have been aware that a lot of people have been helping some of the blind in our audience and giving them the phone number. But some of those blind that are listening to this show and not able to see it, I think I should give them the number right now. And I want to remind a lot of you people to telephone some of your blind friends so that they can have the phone number. Area code 213, of course. The telephone number is 626-7474. Give it to you one more time. Area code 213. If you're in the area code, just dial 626-7474. That's to all our blind Democrats out there and good citizens, Republican or Democrat, right?
Right, both ways.
We want a 2-party system, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want a 1-party system, but we sure think the Democrats have got a little bit to show the Republicans and teach them a couple of lessons. What do you say back there at the show to all of that Lee and I just had to say?
Maybe 2.5 with everything they had to do with the lines and everything. All right, thank you very much. I was just looking at the figures up there. Isn't that beautiful? $6,215,729. It's going up. California, here we come. Or should I say that you're doing a great job just bringing in those contributions here in the Pacific Northwest and out here in the Pacific time zone. Well, we have a very special attraction for you. You know, in 1972, the Democratic presidential banner was carried by a courageous, plain-speaking man of great integrity. And this man was my neighbor and my friend, and I worked with him and continue to work with him in Congress. He's a man of unshakable convictions who had that inner courage to speak the truth. Oh, yes, he lost the election, but he told us a lot of things that we didn't believe and that things were coming. But the issues he raised and the concern that he expressed will not be soon forgotten. I speak of Senator George McGovern, who laid the foundations for changing the way we finance political campaigns in the country. We've asked Senator McGovern to share his thoughts with us about how we can build on his beginnings. So I proudly present my neighbor, my old friend, yes, my competitor, but my friend, Senator George McGovern of South Dakota.
This Democratic National Telethon carries on the commitment to honest and open campaign financing that we began in 1972. The Democratic Party is engaged now, as we were in '72, in a voluntary effort to reform the way we pay for political campaigns. Either major party can go after the kind of money that is invested by some of the richest and most powerful members of our society, not so much because they have a special civic interest in good government, but because they have an interest in special favors for themselves. But as we are now learning so painfully, that kind of money can only pollute our political system and subvert our democratic government. The money scandals exposed in the Watergate investigations are the most obvious examples of what can happen. A Senate Watergate Committee staff report says Mr. Nixon's re-election effort spanned virtually the entire spectrum of campaign corrupt financing practices. But shocking as those revelations are, there is another result that is still more serious. It is that big contributors have bought a piece of the government. If you wonder why we are having the most persistent and ruinous inflation in our national history, you can find the answer in the list of contributors to the Nixon campaign. You will find some $5 million in contributions from big oil company executives. In return, they got a White House committed to higher oil company profits, and you got drastically higher prices for fuel. You can find on those lists another $5 million in contributions from executives of the arms industry. In return, they got a massive boost in military spending, even though we are supposedly at peace. And you got higher prices for everything you buy. It is impossible to miss the connection between those big contributions from the wealthy in '72 and the way our economy is being ruined now. And that is the corrupt connection we must break. In 1972, we Democrats demonstrated that campaigns can be financed honestly and openly, with small contributions from ordinary people, without any secret funds and without any secret deals. It worked. We did not have too much money, but we had enough. All the bills were paid in full. The Democratic Party is committed to that tradition of reform, and we are continuing it through this telethon. Now let me make a personal appeal to everyone who supported my campaign in 1972, whether it was with your dollars, your work, or your vote. Please support this Democratic telethon with whatever you can afford. Call the Democratic Party now so we can once again have government for the people, because we have campaigns financed by the people.
My name is Jeanette Nolan. I have been cast several times as a pioneer woman, and have always tried to invest those characters with quiet strength, the determined purpose, and the deep courage our frontier women must have had. I say must have because it takes strength, purpose, and courage to cross any frontier, to invade the uncharted, to settle, and to proliferate. The raw-boned, wind-whipped, poke-bonneted women of the early West have been dramatized in song and literature, memorialized in marble and bronze, romanticized in musical films, and publicized in both fact and myth. As Americans, we know those women and the men with whom they worked, 2 by 2, husband and wife, each a unit unto itself, building a wonderland out of a wilderness. But now, let's look at another group of pioneer women. Those who succeeded in showing the world, particularly the working class, what can be done in a democratic society when enough determined people get together. In the year 1900, thousands of them were in New York City. 20,000 young women, most of them teenage girls or younger, who protested against the dreadful conditions of the sweatshops in which they worked at the needle trade, sewing blouses, coats, caps, furs, gloves, wearing apparel for the world. They worked from before sunup till past sundown, often as much as 14 hours a day. They slaved in dark, cramped, airless rooms, devoid of sanitary facilities, for the magnificent sum of less than $3 a week. After years of strikes against one shop or another, strikes that never succeeded, conditions goaded them into forming the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. 9 bitter, seething, frustrating years later, the women who worked at sewing ladies' blouses walked out of their sweatshops en masse. They sent 2,000 bone-weary women who were determined, and women who took an oath to remain on strike for their cause. 2,000 arms were raised as the delegates chanted in unison this oath: "If I turn traitor to the cause I now pledge, may the hand wither from the arm I now raise." No arm withered. Every arm grew stronger. For on that November day in 1909, the uprising of the 20,000 created wild excitement among workers everywhere. As the newspapers carried the story of the great labor revolt that followed, Americans learned for the first time about sweatshop conditions, and Americans reacted. Those pioneer women working in the wilderness of exploited humanity brought about changes that hastened the expansion of American industry through improved working conditions and a strong labor movement. Today, women are more vital than ever in our labor unions. And if industry is the spine of our economy, our unions are the ribs that support it. Those pioneer women showed all people that no matter how abused, how downtrodden, how ignored, by uniting, our voices will be heard, our demands attended. Let us remember all of our pioneers and be grateful for their lesson. Let us unite again and raise our voices that we be heard. Answer, America.
Now, let me let you in on something here. Well, lots of wonderful things are happening tonight. I just received a note. It reads like this: "Tell Hubert that Lauren's wife, Nancy, has pledged $200, and see if Lauren will match it. Signed, Nancy Green." All right, Lauren, what do you got to say? Now, look at over there, see?
I'll tell you what I've got to say. I used to call her my better half. But ever since women's liberation came along, I have to call her my equal half. So she's been demoted somewhat. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You pledged $200? My wife pledged $200. There she is. There she is. All right. Is that your check? All right. I will not only match it, which I've already done, but I'll double it.
Lauren told me that you just got a nice payment for that article you wrote, so he says that you're all right there, that you can take care of that. Lauren, listen, it's just you're so generous in more ways than one, and one of the things I want you to do, because I want the people out here just to hear you. I just love to hear you talk, and I want you to introduce some of the people over there on the phones. Why don't you go to it? You've got the list of our people on the phone bank.
I think the people on the phone must be introduced. They've done a tremendous job. All right. Will the people whose name I call out please raise your hand. Alice Ghostly. There she is. Taking off her glasses. And Fanny Flagg. Fanny Flagg. There she is, down below. And Gloria DeHaven. Gloria. Gloria DeHaven. And Nancy Green. Nancy, she's too busy taking money from the phone. Peter Bonners. Peter. Ann Aylesworth. Ann Aylesworth. Are you there? Oh, she just stepped out. Tom Bosley. There he is. Marvelous talented. And there's a talented gal sitting right next to him, Kathleen Nolan. Kathy, raise your hand. And you heard her before, a marvelous performer who is now on the phone busily taking down some information. I don't know if she can raise her hand, but Eartha Kitt. She raised her head a little. And Jessica Walters. Jessica, there you are. Beautiful and talented. And Sheila Rogers. Sheila, where are you? There you are. Sheila, right over there. And Paula Victor. Paula. And Dodie Marshall. Dodie Marshall, are you there? No. Have I missed anybody? Have I missed anybody? Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for all those people on the telephones. They're doing a tremendous job for us.
Lauren, they're doing a great job over there. There's no doubt about that. Just a marvelous job. And the phones are ringing. I can see that they're busy. And now we have a really marvelous and moving message from Cliff Robertson. You're going to like it. Keep tuned in.
I'm Cliff Robertson. Recently, I was given the opportunity to play Philip Nolan in a television production of The Man Without a Country. When I was a boy, every school kid was familiar with Edward Everett Hale's moving story of a headstrong young Army officer who, during a court-martial, was moved to exclaim, "Damn the United States, may I never hear of the United States again." The court thereupon sentenced him to an unusually cruel punishment. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life as a prisoner at sea on a naval vessel and never allowed to hear, read, or speak of his country again. And I'd like you to see now a scene from that film. The Man Without a Country. Philip Nolan is on his deathbed after 57 years in floating exile. He tries one last time to learn news of his beloved country, the United States.
Man. You see, I have a country here. You know, I am dying. I can't go home. Surely there is something you can tell me.
Mr. Nolan, I am bound.
Before you say anything, let me say something that I know you are aware of. There is no one on this ship or in America, God bless her, who is more loyal than I am. And no man can love the old flag and pray for her more than I do. There are 34 stars. I do not know all of them. Surely, Denver, surely you could tell me something before I...
Where shall I begin?
God bless you. God bless you, Danforth. God bless you. Oh, give me the names. Tell me the names, all the names.
That is not a bad beginning. Let us begin with the names.
Yes. Bring map. Get the map. Bring the map over here. Down here. Draw. Draw on it. Draw. Yeah. Draw on it.
Well, sir, as best I can, there is Texas, as you know.
Yes, yes, Texas. That gold star there, I believe, is where my brother's grave is. But I know, Texas. Please, draw the others in.
Yes.
Yes.
California.
California. Oh, so large.
There's Oregon.
Oregon, yes. Oh, tell me. Draw them in. Draw them all in, Danforth. Draw them all in.
The south, there's Florida.
Florida.
Oh, Fred. Fred, I swear to you that I felt like a monster that I had not told him everything before. Danger or no danger. Delicacy or no delicacy. Who was I that I should have been acting the tyrant all this time over this sainted old man who had years ago expiated in his whole manhood's life the madness of a boy's treason? And the last state to be admitted in this territory was Kansas, which was just 2 years ago.
Yes. 34th state. 34. 34 stars. 34 states, and none of them were taken back.
No, sir. Never.
Patriotism isn't as easy and uncomplicated as it once was. And maybe that's because some cynical and selfish men have redefined patriotism to service their own ends. It's everybody's job to protect our country from these false patriots and self-seeking flag wavers.
Hi, I'm Sally Field from Pasadena. To all of you, hi there, folks. Woo! Let's hear it for California. Pasadena? Whatever. To all of you who aren't from California, I'm here to offer my condolences. My state is the most popular state in the Union, and if it weren't a great place, all right. Then why would so many people want to live here? California is also our leading agricultural state and is second in manufacturing. Of all the conterminous 84, we only have 84 states, so 48 states, yes. Conterminous means sharing a common boundary. I looked that up. If only I knew how many states we had, I'd be fine. Of all the conterminous 48 states, California has the highest point, Mount Whitney, and the lowest, Death Valley. California is noted for its highs and lows. After all, we gave the world O.J. Simpson and Richard Nixon. Terrific. All right, keep this clean at all times. Speaking of O.J., we produce more of that than any state but Florida. And we're third in production of that other valuable juice, petroleum. We also produce more chickens. That's the edible kind, of course. Eat your heart out, Colonel Sanders. Let's see now. Among California's scenic pleasures are Yosemite Valley and Lesson and Sequoia Kings National Parks and Lake Tahoe and Mojave and Colorado deserts and San Francisco Bay and Monterey Peninsula and forever and ever and ever. And it's a nice place to live and to visit, but you haven't lived until you've lived here. Got that right. I'm really proud of my home state, and I know I'll be even prouder at the end of this evening when California's pledges top those of any other state. Rah-rah, let's hear it, California. Lean to the left, lean to the right, stand up. So let's show them. Let's get those pledges in here, all right. And answer America. Thank you.
Well, hello, folks out there in Sportsland. How's it going? Here I am, Clayne Stevenson, Illinois' answer to the statement that tall guys can't have fun folk dancing. Well, we all know that's kind of silly and goofy, and one of the most provocative things that I think Edgar Guest or Harvey Korman ever said. Or was it Spiro Agnew? No matter. You know, I've been hanging around the old telethon here for hours, watching the Democratic Party's Democratic Party. And it's something for me because I get kind of, you know, thick-tongued and glassy-eyed when I see a guy like Hans Hall, much less some of the big names we've had here today. And just seeing him race up there to the old podium and begging for a medium close-up so the caps don't show, probably the most exciting moment of my life. And you know, something that they all have done, I don't know whether they were told or just chose to, but when you're not getting paid, you can just about do anything you want. And most of them have chosen to come up here and talk and boast about their home states. But you know something? Every one of them has either overlooked or preferred not to mention certain facts which I now intend to correct, in accordance with Uncle Mackey's Truth in Geographic Law. And that's what I like about the South. Now, up until now, nobody has told you that the state of Louisiana is second only to the state of Florida in the number of tourists who are annually embarrassed by alligators. And that big winds in the state of Oklahoma each year are responsible for screwing an average of 6.7 military school marching band tuba players right into the ground. Certain restricted areas of Utah have unlisted zip code numbers to discourage junk mail. How about this one, sports fans? In the state of Iowa, nobody under the age of 16 is admitted to any movie theater unless he is accompanied by money. Or a heavy lady with a big purse. In California each year, an average of 7 sport cars and 3 mobile homes are trapped in the crotches of redwood trees. One section of Wisconsin annually packs and ships 71% of the soggy soda crackers served with split pea soup in motel restaurants. One of the lovely ladies with the orange hair and the gold pins so graciously serve our wayward and weary. The state of Mississippi supplies over half of the lint found in the pockets of new housecoats and JCPenney Indian blanket bathrobes. You know, in West Virginia, there's an empty swimming pool for underprivileged kids who can't swim. And Nash Hawa. Sounds like an old Indian name, but it was a guy that used to dance in the Ice Follies who passed away in New Hampshire one day, and they named the town after him. And that is the only city in New Hampshire with that name. Ice Follies. Although the state of New Mexico contains many rabid skunks in the fields and forest, it seldom refers to itself as the rabid skunk capital of the Southwest. Here's one I bet you didn't know. In the District of Columbia, I do this. Now, let me explain something. I've been hanging around all day. Now, my brain, when I first came in, was going at 78, but right now my mouth's at 33 1/3. And I'm wearing cheek caps, these Japanese jobs that you just stick on. And you get more than 4 syllables in a word on a card, and I'm dead. Well, anyway, you don't care about my medical problems, just the funny stuff. So, in the District of Columbia, approximately 3,200, count them, folks, 3,200 woodpeckers suffer severe headaches each year from attacking the Washington Monument. I'll tell you something else. If we had a drummer, he'd have gone broomsh on that one. This is one that's really of interest to me. The city of Columbus, Ohio, a town that I've come to know and love, mostly because Woody Hayes is there, was named in honor of the famous Italian explorer Fernando Ohio, who was also with the Ice Follies. In 1964, the state of Kentucky sent 2 delegates to the Democratic National Convention pledged to Colonel Sanders. Ah, sure, giggle and snicker if you will. But they were unseated when the Credentials Committee invoked the seldom-used Ronald McDonald Clause. And finally, in Texas, 17% of the school children don't remember the Alamo, and 64% have completely forgotten Chill Wills.
That's good, huh? Well, believe it or not, we have got some new numbers coming up here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's turn on the machine here, Pat. Right now, here they come, California, ladies and gentlemen, and Sally Field, $681,992. That's $682,000 in anybody's language. That's going to be $700 any minute. Oregon, $99,650. That's going to be $150. Washington, $135,766. Let's go. That's just terrific. Nevada's even come up a little. $25,795. Somebody's going to turn around from one of those tables and just throw $200,000 at us, Bob. And we're going to get up real close to that $7.5 million. At any rate, we're very, very proud of our 4 states here. We give it back to you right away.
Well, you know, it's drawing right around there now. We've got about not quite 20 minutes to go, and in those 20 minutes you can do wonders. In 20 minutes you can do marvelous things, and we're going to do marvelous things. Look what's happening up there on the tote board right now. 6,917,601. Not bad. Isn't that great? Now listen. I have a very special story to tell you. Earlier today, I announced that a little girl by the name of Melissa had called in, and she said that in her statement, that she had given her entire allowance of $1 to the Democrats. Well, little Melissa called in just a little while ago, and she said, "Will you tell Senator Humphrey that I didn't quite tell it all, that I held out 10 cents. And I'm going to contribute the other 10 cents. Now that's walking the extra mile, Melissa. Isn't that marvelous? Isn't that marvelous? Oh, it's just so beautiful. So if you're holding out, listen, if you're holding out and you planned on contributing just a little more, why don't you follow Melissa's example? You know, children do tell us so many times what we ought to do. Well, now, as our last performer of this evening, I think it's only fitting that we have one of our very best back with us again. And now I've had the opportunity twice, and that's a great privilege, to introduce the incomparable Eartha Kitt. Eartha?